Today, with a little help from the experts at ProTax Accountant, we're going to pull back the curtain on something you see all the time, the UK's most common tax code, 1257L. Yeah, that one on your payslip. But have you ever stopped to think about what it really means for your wallet?
Come on, be honest with me. You get your payslip, you see that 1257L, and what do? You probably just give it a quick glance and shrug, right? I mean, it just looks like another bit of financial jargon, easy to ignore. But here's the thing, that little shrug, it could be a really big deal. In fact, just ignoring that code could be costing you some serious cash. We're talking hundreds of pounds year after year.
All right, so let's get into it. What is this mysterious code? Let's break it all down.
Okay, in the simplest terms, 1257L is pretty much the UK's default tax code. It's HMRC's way of telling your employer, hey, this person gets the full standard personal allowance before they have to pay any income tax. So if you've got one job and a pretty straightforward financial life, this is the code you'd expect to see.
And what is that allowance? Well, for the 2025/26 tax year, the magic number is 12,570 pounds. Just think about that. That's how much you can earn before a single penny of it should go to income tax.
And when you break it down, it feels a lot more real, doesn't it? We're talking about just over 1,000 pounds a month, or around 242 pounds every single week. That's yours to keep, completely tax-free.
You know, the way they actually come up with the code is surprisingly simple. HMRC takes that big number, 12,570. They literally just chop off the last digit. That gives you 1257. Then they just stick an L on the end to show it's the standard allowance. Pretty neat, right?
Okay, so now we know what it means. But that's only half the battle. Now we need to talk about why it's so incredibly important to get it right. Because believe me, the financial stakes here are higher than you might think. Get this, a survey from Money Week found that almost a third of adults have never, ever checked their tax code. That is just a massive number of people who are essentially flying blind with their own money. You're either risking overpaying HMRC or maybe even worse, underpaying and getting a really nasty surprise bill down the line. And listen, this isn't just some theoretical problem. Here's a perfect real-world example. One person discovered they were missing out on their marriage allowance transfer. That little mistake was costing them 250 pounds. But a simple check and a quick call to HMRC, bam, money adjusted, refund issued, and cash back in their pocket. That's why this matters.
All right, so if 1257L is the standard, when is it actually the wrong code to have? Let's dive into some of the most common traps where this code can trip you up. The rule of thumb here is actually pretty simple. You should have 1257L if you've got one job, one pension, and no extra benefits. But the moment you have multiple jobs, or maybe a benefit like a company car, that 1257L code becomes a huge red flag. It's a sign that your tax is probably not being calculated correctly. And if you need a cautionary tale, this one is it. A retired teacher came in with 2 separate pensions, and both of them were coded 1257L. What does that mean? It means she was getting the full tax-free allowance twice. When HMRC finally caught up with it the next year, they hit her with a bill to claw back 4,800 pounds. Ouch! So painful and so avoidable. Okay, another thing you absolutely have to keep an eye out for are these little letters and numbers at the end of your code. W1, M1, or X. If you see one of those, it means you're on an emergency tax code. And what that does is it taxes each pay period in isolation, as if it's the only one you'll get. More often than not, this means you're overpaying tax until you get it fixed. Oh, and this is really important. Where you live in the UK actually matters. If you're in Scotland, your code is going to start with an S, so you'll see S1257L. Now, you still get the exact same tax-free allowance, but the tax rates you pay on everything you earn above that are totally different. There are more bands and the percentages vary.
Right. So by now, I hope it's crystal clear that you need to check your code. The big question is, how do you actually do it? Well, I've got a super quick, actionable checklist for you.
It's honestly not that complicated. First, you're going to log into your personal tax account on the gov.uk website. Then, pull out your latest payslip and compare the numbers. Do a quick sanity check. Does this code actually reflect all your jobs, all your benefits, all your allowances? You're specifically looking for those emergency codes, W1, M1, or X.
And a huge one, make sure only your main job has that 1257L code.
Now, you can absolutely do a lot of this checking yourself, but some situations will take it complicated and they get complicated fast. So when should you stop tinkering and call in a pro?
I love this analogy. Think of it like working on your car. You can probably handle changing the oil yourself, right? But if you hear a strange clinking noise coming from the engine, you're not going to grab a wrench. You're going to call a mechanic. Tax is exactly the same. Sometimes it pays to let an expert get under the hood and get it right the first time. So what are those strange engine noises in the world of tax? Well, we're talking about things like having multiple income streams, being a company director juggling salary and dividends, dealing with rental income or a side hustle. These are all classic signs that your situation has gone beyond a simple DIY check and it's time for professional advice. So this really all comes down to one big question for you. After hearing all of this, are you 100% confident that your tax code is telling the entire story of your finances? Or could there be a few missing chapters? Look, if there's even a shadow of a doubt in your mind, getting clarity on this stuff brings an incredible amount of peace of mind. And if you need help, the team at Pro Tax Accountant is there to make sure your financial story has the right ending.